This could be an ick, maybe. My first wetsuit I ever had was a CJ, cue up a picture. It's god awful.
I know the photo.
Yeah, you do,
Green
dude. Bright green. I look like a highlighter out there. It's ridiculous. But nobody's missing me. I think you could see me from space.
Hulk smash.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I was not smashing anything back in that day. That's for sure.
What's up, Justin? Welcome
How's it
back.
going? Good to see you.
I'm Shane. This is Steve. He's still busy packing a bunch of orders, but we're excited to jump back into this week's podcast. Today, you want to hop right into it?
I might as well.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're going to talk about surfing ICKS. So Justin and I have come up with our list of a few surfing ICKS that we've been told about or we've noticed. We want to be clear, this is not to just rag on people. We are both guilty of plenty of these. And I'm sure some of you guys are as well. But they're just things that we find funny that people have brought up and we're like, oh no, is that something that I do?
Yeah.
So the reason the way I came up with this was I was talking to one of my friends and she said, oh, one of my biggest icks is when a guy smears a bunch of sunscreen all over his face. And I was like, oh no, I do that all the time. I was like, how many times have I thought a girl was cute on the beach and maybe talked to her or something, and the whole time she's like, ew, this guy's got sunscreen all over his face.
That's hilarious.
So it was one that I was very guilty of, but I'd rather have sunscreen on my face than skin cancer. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with it. And if you wanted, you could always throw a hat on.
Sure.
How about you? Are you a big sunscreen guy?
I'm a non-sunscreen guy at all.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time I ever put sunscreen on. There's no real, I don't have a very convincing argument why you shouldn't. I just personally don't.
Okay.
But it's funny because when you talk about lathering sunscreen on you, there's definitely a spectrum to that, because there's, you can put sunscreen on nobody knows you're covered, but then there's the guy that goes out there and he looks like a ghost, and it's like, okay, is that 3 inches of is that necessary? It looks like you're in costume now. So, but I get it. I'm a Mexican, so I kind of tan, but other people burn. So,
I was told that apparently dermatologists recommend that you put it on quite thick. If you can't see it, it's probably not on enough.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you who are fair skinned like me and have just been rubbing it in all the way, or maybe just look to see if you're supposed to put a little bit more on. Because I learned that one. I was like, oh no, I've been rubbing it in way too much, and I should probably
yeah.
Because then I overcorrected when the person said, oh, a bunch of sunscreen lathered on. So then I was like, oh, I don't want to be seen with sunscreen. And now I'm like, oh, well, if dermatologists think that, and I had a really peely nose when I was in high school, and I had a dermatologist who was like, you keep this up 5 or 10 more years, and you're definitely getting cancer on your nose.
You don't want that.
You need to stop. So yeah, I put a lot of sunscreen on.
Yeah. But if you guys if you need to put a lot of sunscreen on, stuff like that, I've seen people put on, they have different shades of sunscreen now that kind of match your skin tone. It's an option,
or get colorful like CJ.
There you go. Yeah, colorful zinc. And it's just go, if you're going to walk on ice, might as well dance. Just color your shit up, you'll see some orange and red in there.
I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but at surf camp, we always had Zinca, and we got really good at drawing, we draw butterfly masks on the girls and different facial whatever drawings and paintings. That way we'd make it a little fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes people would get a cool tan of something on their face or whatever, and it was just kind of a funny thing to do at surf camp. Inevitably, almost every week or at least every month, some kid got a hold of the black Zinca and just covered their face with Zinca.
No way.
So if you're gonna do the Zinca, don't get black Zinca and cover your face with it.
That's hilarious.
And it might even be accidental that it smears a bit. Just be a little careful with that one.
Yeah.
So what's your...
Yeah, I'll get into one of the more harmless ones, but it's definitely a no-go if you talk to surfers. It's the board shorts under the wetsuit.
I used to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I ever used to do that, but I've definitely seen a lot of guys in the parking lot. And I want to say something, but also it's you're not gonna. Hey, by the way, you shouldn't put your board shorts on your with dick so. But that is one that I've seen come up a bunch.
It's only hurting them.
Yeah.
on the inside of the wetsuit.
It's got to be so uncomfortable. Like the wedgie would be insane.
Yeah, as a kid, I always did it, and then like some better surf friend was like, "Yo, don't do that anymore. Like you need to towel change or wear a poncho like this guy."
There you go.
Yeah, definitely a bit of an ick, and it just doesn't feel as good.
Yeah.
So if you're considering it, get a poncho or a towel. Really easy to towel change. I like towel changing. I can do it pretty quickly, but I also have a poncho for when it's really cold out.
Yeah.
I like a poncho a bit more.
I agree.
And okay, so my next one, another parking lot ick, is a parking lot leash.
Okay.
That's when somebody throws a leash on in the parking lot, or just like way too soon. I also used to do this as a grommet like contests, and I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been like one of the Coffin brothers or something. It was like, "Yo, why's your leash on the parking lot?" Like, no, like I'm doing something kooky in front of the cool kids.
Yeah.
Like, no. Do you ever put your leash on in the lot?
I've never put it on. I've probably been a victim of leash dragging before, so it's like the second cousin of the leash in the parking lot. But
sometimes your leash just like I bring a board bag to the beach sometimes, and I've had my leash dragging out of that, and I get down to the water, I'm like, no, it's that guy.
Oh man, all right, I'm going home. Forget about this session.
The locals aren't giving me any waves after that.
Yeah,
like,
I gotta change spots. That's funny. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see what I got. I got a couple good ones in here. You have one that's interesting. I'll save the one I was about to say for later, but kind of going back to the wetsuit things, this is maybe a personal one. Maybe it's in, maybe it's not. I've seen a lot of people on like Instagram and TikTok with like, it's kind of popular. I've seen actually in the water a few times, like people wearing the big chains over their necklace or their necklace over their wetsuit, like a big chain.
I saw that at Scripps the other day.
I don't like, to each their own, like, but I don't, why? Like, I feel like it would get in the way. It could possibly fall off. It's another thing to maybe get snagged. Yeah. And I feel like you also see, I feel like some people do it to look cool. Less is more in the surfing community, I think. But
do you ever rock the puka shell necklace?
No, that's just out of my league. I'm not Hawaiian, but if I see a guy,
I don't know if they rock it.
Really?
I did in high school for like 2 years, or maybe it was junior high. I wore like a white stringy puka shell necklace and just like rocked it for years. And I don't know if they were cool back then, but
did you wear it surfing?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there you go.
Over the wetsuit. I'm
certain, I made a point.
I'm certain it was over the wetsuit.
That's awesome.
Because like if you tuck it in, it's gonna rub up against your chest.
True.
So it makes sense to wear it out.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, it's kind of like the baseball thing. Because I grew up playing baseball. Like every good pitcher's got a ridiculously thick chain on.
Oh, do they?
In the majority of them. Yeah, a lot of baseball players, their jewelry is a big thing. But for me, it's like when I transitioned to surfing, I don't see the point in it. But I'd say that's my ick. And that's a personal ick. Maybe people feel different, but I'd be curious to see what you guys think.
Yeah, another one's that I've done myself on accident. I caught it rather quickly, but putting on a wetsuit backwards.
Oof.
The zipper, if it's a back zip, it goes in the back. There are very few wetsuits that zip in the front, and I think almost all of them are going to be a vest top or a women's wetsuit. So if you're a dude and the zipper's in the front, we're sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's probably on backwards. Also, chest zips. Do you even have a back zip?
I not anymore.
Yeah, I switched to chest zips a while ago. We're gonna do a podcast talking about different wetsuit types at some point. But we feel like I just feel like you get way more shoulder movement. It's less constricting. It's pretty easy to put on. Less like flushes. Your zipper never pulls down. Like I'm a big chest zip guy.
Yeah, I don't see very many like actual surfers get the wetsuit on backwards, but I definitely see I live in Mission Beach. I see a lot of people that come and like rent boards, like they're in town for a weekend. And they're like, let's try surfing. Wouldn't really consider them a surfer, just somebody in town looking to have fun. Those guys all the time have their wetsuits on backwards.
And I used to work at a surf shop where I was a weekly occurrence where it'd be like, hey, it goes on the other way. And that would like, I would normally, if I'm giving somebody a rental suit, I'm like, hey, zipper goes in the back.
Yeah.
Like you should, that's kind of on the shop workers or sales associates, but like, somebody walks out, like that's maybe a little bit on you.
Yeah, true. It's a good point.
The shop might be the kook in that case, not the beginner.
That's a good point. On that one, I also wrote down wearing your wetsuit when you're not surfing. I see that on Kook of the Day all the time. What are they say, like yeast patrol or something like that? Like some dude ordering a burrito and he's got a full wetsuit on. I see it even like, again, living in Mission Beach. There's definitely multiple times I see people walking down the street with a full wetsuit on, or even driving in their car, and they have a full suit on. I'm like, what are we doing?
I walked into La Playa a week ago in my wetsuit, and I wear my wetsuit home driving almost every day.
Really?
Yeah, I put my wetsuit on at home because I'm so close to like the South La Jolla reefs and PB that like I put my wetsuit on in the warmth of my house.
Okay.
I don't like towel changing at all. So I'll cruise down my wetsuit. I'm checking the surf in my suit.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of the water, throwing a towel down in my car, like waterproof seat covers, and driving home in the wetsuit.
Damn, dude.
I'm full yeast patrol.
That's crazy. I didn't. How far of a drive is it though?
I'm like half of these icks already. I think I've almost everyone. This is just ragging on me. It turns out.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. How far away are you from the beach?
2 blocks.
That's not bad though.
Blocks. But that's the closest wave. If I'm checking north, checking south, I might even screw around and drive a Del Mar.
Damn, dude, that's crossing the line.
But after I'm wet, I'll change out when I'm up there. But
fair. Okay, I can see that. If you're changing to a dry suit and driving to the beach, that's one thing. You're driving home in a wetsuit. You probably peed in that thing too. Who knows? Yeah. Oof.
But I'd love to. My happy place is like, I don't know if any of you guys do this or if you have an outdoor shower or whatever, but that when you get in a shower and you just open your suit, let it run, hot water go in, that is like the best feeling on earth.
Yeah.
So I'll keep driving home in my wetsuit.
Hey man, hey, to each their own. I love it.
I'm giving you the ick every time I see you.
Yeah, dude, I'll honk.
The wetsuit into La Playa or like the taco shop every time. I'm like,
that's classic.
So cringe. Like,
do you take it below to the waist? Oh, no, full up neck.
Well, no, I'll like take the neck part off.
Sure.
So it's just like the cut like of the chest zip.
Yeah.
But
you're like, no, dude, I still have my leash on. What are you talking about?
That would be so funny to go to La Playa with a board. That would be
that
would be a little beyond me. Yeah.
Someone's done it.
So was that your one?
That was mine.
Okay. My next one is booties and spring suits.
That's a good one.
Which I've never done booties and a spring suit, but I've done booties and board shorts and like Indo. And
that makes a little bit more sense.
Like reefy waves, like there's a Nusalambongin and like Uluwatu. It's like kind of sucks on your feet.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
It sucks to get cut on your foot when you're early into a surf trip, and then it's just you're in somewhere tropical and your foot's just infected the whole time.
Yeah.
But if I'm in San Diego, you probably don't need it. Like,
yeah.
There's not that many. Like the only waves where I'd consider doing it is like, I'm not going to name those waves, but places with sharp rocks that lead right up to the water, and you're walking over rocks to get out there.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. I've seen, when I was in Indo, I saw they have these, it's actually kind of a cool product. They have these pocket booties. I don't know if you've seen them.
I'm going to buy those.
They're sweet, dude. And they're pretty cheap, too, because it's like walking. You don't want to surf with booties on. Most people don't really like it. I personally don't like it. But that walk does suck. And for me, it's like, you kind of got to, it's part pay to play. You're in Uluwatu, you flew to Indo. It's kind of like everybody does it. You got to kind of rough it out. But I saw some people with these, they're like socks. They're really thin. And you slip them on, walk through the reef, you're totally good. And then they come off, they're really small, and they have like a little knot that they tie together. And you put them in your pocket, and you can have them in your pocket through the whole session, put them back on. Another interesting thing I saw, is not to go down a tangent here, but I saw this guy walking on a reef, and he took his leash off, and he put his leash, see if I can do this for you guys, he put his leash around his shoe, or around the palm of his foot, and was like putting all of his weight on that. And so he had like one foot that was kind of like, you don't really want to put too much weight on it, but this one he was fine. It's kind of a smart move.
Interesting.
So,
interesting.
I don't know. Maybe it's an ick. Who knows? Maybe you can put on the ick category.
Wrapping your foot in your leash.
Yeah.
I might talk to Steve about making some pocket booties.
They're sweet.
See if he's into it for host Stevie. So we might have just come up with a new product. On the pod.
Totally. They're big. I think they're big in like Australia and Indonesia, but I've never seen them here. Because usually when people like on the West Coast, if they're wearing booties, it's because they're cold, not because they're on a reef.
Yeah,
but.
that's true. But there'd be so this is something that you don't see people do here, but in Santa Barbara, a lot of our rocks were quite slippery.
Yeah.
C Street, Ventura Point, Rincon, they get mossy, and especially after a rain, which flushes fresh water down, and something about it's just a little more slippery. I don't know what caused it. Maybe all the extra nutrients cause an algal bloom. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you wax the top of your feet so that you can scrape the slipperiness off your feet. But those pocket booties, you could just shove them in the chest zip of your wetsuit or down the neck hole or whatever. But they would keep you from having to wax the top of your feet, which
interesting. That's smart.
It gets in the hair. It's like, I think waxing the top of your feet might be borderline an ick, but I also think it's like the core guys that are going to be doing that. Like if you had to heat it like trestles or something, like I would always wax the top of my feet.
Really?
The rocks get slippery there. Yeah.
Damn. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is it my turn? Or is that my turn?
Yeah.
Let's see what I got here. Necklace over the wetsuit, wearing a wetsuit when not surfing, dragging leash. Here's another one. This is maybe not an ick, but it's something I definitely avoid. Eating a big meal before surfing. Oh, yeah. Like a breakfast burrito, save that till after the session. Definitely not before the session. Yep. But
hence the wet wetsuit in La Playa.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of guys that I would compete against growing up, like I would do NSSAs against like the Coffin brothers, Kolohe, Nat Young, like a bunch of super good guys. I'm pretty sure almost all of them didn't like eating before heats, but the Coffin brothers, they did run what they called Fat Boy Surf Camp, and they might actually like eating before surfing.
Really?
Next time I run into them, I'll message Parker later and ask him if they would eat before surfing, because
that'd be funny.
Kind of like I'd be curious like what the majority of people do, like
Yeah, I mean maybe like I'm talking like eating, like having a couple dates and like a spoonful of honey to have a little bit of sugar in your system. That's different, but
it's oddly specific.
I mean, it's just talking for a friend here, but
I like some cereal because you don't get heartburn from like cereal with the milk, and
it's
kind of simple, but like nothing with salsa, nothing with tomatoes. Like I'm not gonna eat a bowl of chili and go surf, or I'd like
for sure
I'd need like 8 Tums or something.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what our audience does. Do you guys surf before, or do you guys eat before you surf, or do you like to surf hungry?
Yeah.
So I got one. People who don't wax their longboard up to the nose, because when I surf with my friends that do that, and then I borrow their longboard, and I go to walk to the nose, I end up doing like the splits or something. Not so much of an egg, just like if you're not walking the nose, you don't really need to do it for yourself. But
totally.
It does look a little. Just wax your longboard up to the nose, you'll look cooler. You'll get a few more waves probably from the local people if they see you don't have wax all the way up. Like,
nice.
They might take a couple waves off you.
Yeah. The last one I have is super close to that one. It's waxing your shortboard all the way to the nose. I don't see that very often, but I have come across it a couple of times where I see somebody like perfectly wax their board all the way to the tip, and I'm like, what are we doing up there? What's that extra real estate covered for?
Who was it? It might have been John or something does it. He's doing like nose picks and like might actually need it up there. Like,
that makes sense.
You're not doing nose picks.
Yeah.
Like surfing like John.
True.
You probably don't need it. Like,
I forgot Shane's a good surfer. Shane's like, what are you talking about, dude?
No, I did it for a while, and I was like, I like never had any footprints up there. I never had any moments where I was like landing that. And I was like, I'm just doing this because John does it. And
sure.
Like what I was doing was the ick, was like waxing it all. Like I don't do big nose pick turns. I've like don't do that many even rotational airs anymore since I've like hurt my knees and hip and stuff. Like kind of like man,
okay, now all right, I might retract that one a little bit because I have seen people do some crazy turns where they keep their nose on their toes on the nose and pull the board back, but
I doubt that people waxing up there were
for 90% of us.
Who does, they're not doing the like cross mark ones that are like the which I do think those look cool. Some people think those are an ick. I think they look cool, but I think it's a worse wax job than just a well-done wax job. And I'm going to do a video on how to wax your board, because I once had Mr. Zoggs tell me that my wax job was one of the best he'd ever seen.
Really?
So, yeah.
There you
Mr.
go.
Zoggs is a real person, for those who don't know. Yeah, he lives up in Goleta, I think.
No shit.
Yeah, Sex Wax is based in Carpinteria, and one of my coaches worked there for a while and got to tour the factory a bunch of times. And
That's
one time
cool.
I brought my board. I was like, yo, check out my wax. Like, damn, that's a good one.
He's like, we need to frame this.
Yeah, he had me, I like filmed a video for it. I don't think it ever got used in any like marketing stuff, but yeah.
That's
it's
cool.
out there somewhere.
Interesting.
So you're up next.
That was my last one.
Okay. I've got a couple more. People who wear a jersey in a heat to get photographed. And I'm guilty of this one myself. But that's like another target on your back. Like,
Yeah.
if you're shooting with somebody who can't spot you, like, a lot of locals are probably going to take notice of that and are going to like burn you. But I've also done it because, like, you know, I had my mom or somebody like shooting, or a girlfriend or something that couldn't spot me in a sea of like black wetsuits.
Totally.
If you are the type of person who's going to do that, like, consider getting, you know, Stevie has a gray wetsuit, or get a some colorway of a wetsuit. And you'll stand out that way. Or colorful board. I think colorful boards, like, I ride Hypto Cryptos, they're just black and white, but at least it's got black rails.
Big time.
Some distinguishing thing about your board. Like, Big Red's epic for that reason. Like, it's just a huge red board.
Totally.
I might be peacocking a bit with it. So
Yeah.
Do you like colored boards or just plain ones?
I have, actually, it's funny, I have mostly colored boards. Not for that reason, it's just the way it works out. And I used to have, this could be an ick maybe, my first wetsuit I ever had was I'll have CJ queue up a picture, it's god awful.
I know the photo.
Yeah, you do, dude. Bright green. I look like a highlighter out there. It's ridiculous. But nobody's missing me. I think you could see me from space. But
Hulk smash.
yeah, yeah, dude. I was not smashing anything back in that day. That's for sure. But I have I have a purple board, and then I have this one. It's like a bunch of different, it's like I forgot what the term is for it, but it's mosaic. It's got like a lot of different colors on it. It's really cool. But that's kind of a dead giveaway that you can find me in the lineup. But it's hard. If you have a black wetsuit, nobody's spotting you.
Yeah.
So I think I'm out of ICKS personally.
Okay, I got two more. Locals being angry for just no reason.
Dude.
Like, if the waves are bad, or like,
Preach.
yeah, or like you paddle out, you've just gotten out there, you haven't caught in a wave, you haven't blown it for anybody. Like, it's not some dangerous spot, like it's PB Drive or something, like just generic wave, the pier or something, where there's an avalanche in Ocean Beach, like not even very good waves.
Yeah.
And people are just angry right off the bat. So I paddled out at C Street or Ventura Point on Thanksgiving morning, and it was kind of good, but there was 150 guys out in the water between C Street and the point. And on Thanksgiving morning, I listened to 5 verbal arguments and fights break out in the span of an hour. And I was like, you
sucks.
guys are ruining surfing for everyone else out here because you're super angry about, like, whatever. And maybe they got snaked. Maybe sometimes they had a right to. But if you just blow up on people who are new to it or don't really know what they're doing, they're never going to change. Like, I personally, if somebody, like, blows it for me, I like to approach it in a, hey, here's kind of what you're doing wrong. Here's how you might be, like, endangering others. Consider, surfing a different wave that's more beginner friendly, or taking out a board. Don't be on a short board at, like, 2-foot surf and then, bailing your board into people who are longboarding past you, because, like,
that happens all the time too.
Like, if you're not ready for a short board, stay on a foam board. There's no shame in it. But yeah, just people blowing up for, like, no reason at all. Like, share the waves. Respect people who have put in the time at a wave. Don't back paddle. Don't, like, skip people's turn. Try to pay attention to where everybody is in the lineup and who's gotten waves or who's paddled for waves. There's not an infinite number of waves, but there's enough waves that you don't need to, like, ruin people's Thanksgiving morning, blowing up on each other. Like, I was like, this sucks. And then I drove up to Rincon, and the surf was a bit smaller, but it was a bunch of families, like maybe 15 to 20 groms out and maybe like 40 adults out, and like a lot of the adults are like, you know, pushing, like I pushed my friend's daughter into a couple waves and like let him go on a few. Like surfing's about having fun. Like
absolutely.
Don't make it weird.
That's probably the best one so far.
Yeah. Being angry when you're like just go in.
Yeah.
It's
not why we're here. Come on.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, like just go in. Like
Also, sorry to interrupt you, bailing your board in small surf.
Yeah,
we got to cut that out.
That sucks.
I've been guilty of that. It's hard when you're learning. You're trying to figure out how to time your duck dive and stuff. I get it. But if you are going to bail your board, look out for whoever's behind you. And it only gets more serious the bigger the waves get.
Hang on to your board is the number one rule. I was just talking to one of my buddies who surfs a pretty localized wave up in La Jolla, and he was like, we were talking about like people getting in the way, and he's like, dude, it is the worst, like cardinal sin you can commit is bailing your board into somebody. Like it is the most easy way to really hurt someone or hurt their board. Don't bail your boards. If you're out in conditions where a wave catches you by surprise, you're probably at the wrong wave. You should go somewhere that's smaller and calmer and get used to the ocean. I was guilty of this one. I was paddling out at Rincon, which is a right-hand point break. Instead of just waiting and taking the whitewater on the head, I decided to paddle for the shoulder because it was like I'm probably 10 years old. I decided to paddle for the shoulder, and this guy's flying down the line on his Bing longboard. It's probably a $1,500 board, maybe more. And I just ruined this wave for him. He almost hit me. I had to sink the nose in, jump off, like landed next to me, like screamed at me a bit. And he was like a grown ass man.
Yeah.
But I like learned a valuable lesson. I would probably approach it a little differently than he did. But surfing can be quite dangerous, and you know, don't bail your board. And if you're paddling to where someone is going rather than where they're coming from, you know, if you're both going towards the same place, you're probably going to crash. But if you're paddling towards where they're coming from, or you can make it way around where they are, it's better to kind of pass each other parallel than you know, perpendicular is how collisions happen in surfing.
Totally.
So always try to go kind of parallel but the opposite direction of where they're going or coming from.
Great tip. Let's get your last one out of the way before we wrap it up here.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes left. Foil sups. Foils are dangerous. Sups are dangerous. Why are we combining the two?
Yeah.
I can't think of a more dangerous combination of surfing equipment than that.
That's funny.
You know, just take a jet ski out there with razor blades. See
that?
Like, what are you doing? I don't see why anyone needs both of them in a lineup. If you're doing it in the open ocean or in the bays or whatever, those are great pieces of exercise equipment. I've considered getting a foil board for like middle of nowhere waves, way out the back, just pumping around the bay for exercise. But like, it's just so dangerous.
Yeah.
You should not be taking that into a lineup with anyone else out there. Like if you're paddling out on a foil or even a sup with people out in the water, you're kind of an ick.
Yeah. Or at least know what you're doing and stay away.
Yeah. And if you know what you're doing on a sup, it's fine. If you're waiting your turn, you're sitting out wide, you're not bailing your board into people, great. Keep doing it. I love that for you.
Totally.
But if you're potentially hurting anyone or you've ever hurt anyone, you should really rethink what you're riding because that's not cool.
Boom.
So safety first is the lesson of the last two.
Sweet.
ICKS. And we've run out of recording time, so that's the pod.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. There's for sure ICKS that we haven't talked about. Yeah. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. If there's anything that you've seen or anything you've heard of, that's just an absolute no-go.
Let us know your biggest surfing ICKS.
Yeah, drop it in the comments.